Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Dashy and Shotzzy have revealed their perspective on why they believe OpTic Texas can take even further steps from now to the end of the year. Shotzzy comparing this year's team to the Dallas Empire team back in the Modern Warfare 2019 days where they won the World Championship. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. Firstly, if you didn't watch the end of this morning's video, just a quick update on the fact that this fan survey is still live and everything. If you guys want to give your thoughts on any of everything Call of Duty, feel free to do so. We'll leave a link down below, which I probably did this morning, but I might have forgotten to. Just also a weird update here. Not necessarily a weird update, but I know there was some discussion a while that this might happen in the Call of Duty world. So OpTic Rettles here, a Rocket League player for OpTic, qualified for this Gamers8 tournament, which is, I think this has been going on in Saudi Arabia for the last couple of years. And obviously there's, you know, moral questions around this fundamentally, but I know that it was Doug, maybe it was 2 years ago now, sent to say that there was this big tournament in Saudi Arabia that the COD guys were going to get invited to, and Doug wanted to go because it was going to be a damn big prize pool, and all it needed was for Activision to say yes and approve it, because obviously the organisers of this need the approval of the actual publisher who owns the league or whatever to have the rights to use their game, and therefore they were going to invite all the players out, and it was going to be a pretty big tournament out there. So they've obviously done this with Rocket League, but Activision, I believe, said no, that's not happening, so that was shut down. But I believe Gamers8 wanted to make this happen in Saudi Arabia with COD for kind of like a big challenger tournament, really, where Doug was going to go to. That never happened though. Maybe it'll happen in the future, but just an interesting debate there. Slash has also done his first tweet in quite some time. Tiny says, are we going to ignore the fact that it's May and I still can't watch a single kill cam in custom game? So there's been plenty of bugs in the game. We know that Treyarch are probably working hard to resolve some of the issues in ranked play, but there's only so much they can do, whereas in the main game itself, unfortunately, Infinity Ward, just still don't really care. And as Slasher says, it's May and there's still no red dots or dead silence. They don't care. So Slasher's first tweet back in a couple of weeks now is doing what Slasher does best. But I also must wonder, right, next year's game, whatever next year's game is going to be, I don't know whether it's going to be Modern Warfare 2.5, whether it's going to be a new map pack update that Sledgehammer do, I don't know. But I know there's been some rumors that, what about if next year they just actually did the things with this game they should have done? Because if there were better maps and some of these issues like red dots, dead silence are resolved, this game could be way better than it actually is. So I do wonder whether they're going to next year come to their senses on that. They probably won't, right? I don't know, it's wishful thinking on my part, but we still really don't know what we're going to get next year right now, which is a big debate. Also wanted to mention this from Chino, because I saw a lot of discussion on this, right? So Chino has managed to escape the rat race of challenges and is going to work a 9 to 5 at Walgreen. I know that some people said, super sad, feel sorry for Chino and all this, but I think Chino's got a good mindset about this stuff. And honestly, genuinely looking at a lot of the guys in challenges and also some of the pros that are on the kind of a more expendable part of the league, it's super difficult to make this work in the long term. I think honestly you've got to look at what Chino's been able to achieve on the positive side. The guy made a career out of playing Call of Duty for years, won championships, did a dream job for a few years, and okay, now he's stepping into a 9 to 5 as part of his next journey and his next adventure. But I think what he's been able to achieve is super impressive, way more than most people have that work a 9 to 5 since they're in college and stuff. So okay, Chino and others, they did their time in Call of Duty. I still think he kind of got screwed over with that Cold War team after they dropped him on Los Angeles Guerrillas. I think he was a solid player for that roster. So some things went his way back in the World War II days and even earlier, some things didn't. Legendary player in Call of Duty, and is just deciding, I think for good reason, understandably, to step away from challenges, because a lot of guys in challenges are grinding day in, day out. They're on these, crazy schedules and just struggling to make things work financially. And Chino's decided that, instead of doing that, he's just going to go and do a 9 to 5 and take a new chapter in his life. We know that Adam Killer Sloss, world champion from 2013 on that Freaker Impact team, he's now an electrician, and, he's doing well doing that. So it's a very interesting conversation, because in other, let's say, regular sports, if you're a former player, you're kind of set by the time you're out of there, right? But in Call of Duty, a lot of these guys, because it's so fresh and so young, a lot of these guys, if they won their championships a few years ago, don't really have much, they're not balling, right? So stepping back into a regular job is more necessary. I know there's even been discussions about, at least if you're the likes of Slasher, he's got that robotics engineering degree. So, but of course, some of the players can step into either casting or streaming and all these type of positions that some have done, and very successfully so, like aBeZy and Slacked and these guys, but it doesn't work for everyone. So, I just thought it was an interesting debate to be had and a story that people were discussing. let's talk about the OpTic situation then. First of all, I thought this is crazy, actually, the fact that Dashy has been around a long time now. He competed in the Infinite Warfare World Championship, and after then, of course, he's always had a positive KD. World War II, Black Ops 4, Modern Warfare 90, played one map in that, right? That, well, map 5 that he subbed in for with the sniper on Piccadilly Search and Destroy, Cold War Vanguard, and now Modern Warfare 2. He's officially qualified. He will compete unless there's some crazy circumstances. Will Dashy finally get the W this year? And this was the discussion between Shotzzy and Dashy over the last few days. What makes this OpTic Texas team so good? Why does it feel so different, this OpTic team, and there's so much confidence in this OpTic team from the fan base that there hasn't really been in quite some time? Dashy gives a lot of credit to Shotzzy individually and to his playstyle and to how valuable he is, thinking he's arguably one of the best, if not the best player in the entire game, but also it's the culture within the team, what Ghosty's done for the roster. Dashy says he straight up loves playing with these guys, which is, okay, you would expect that to be the case, but some teams in this league certainly do not like playing with each other. They're just there because the organizations put them together, and that certainly holds back their performance to a certain extent. And Shotzzy also says that this team feels to him like the Dallas Empire team of Modern Warfare 2019 that, of course, won the World Championship.
We have been winning, or well, not that scrims matter, but like, bro, we win like most of the maps every single time, like consistently, and we sit there and like we don't want to, or like then we go into our next scrim wanting to like shit on the next team. Like we keep doing that over and over and over, and this is like the same mindset that our MW team had. That is really, really good, just because like there's teams that get on and don't want to, like, they don't want to scrim. You know, they lose a map, they lose full, but like this team is hungry. Like we want to win, and that's what we're gonna continue doing for Toronto. We just got to keep improving.
How you feeling, man?
Dude, I love these. I love playing with these guys. Like,
yeah, dude. I mean, I talked about. I think Ghosty's really good for a player like you.
Oh no, Dan does so much that the stats don't show, that people just don't understand. But obviously, I think that series he was also frying, right?
Well, he was frying, but
he fried S&D. He locked down Gate.
I think for someone like you, like you're such a good slayer, and like
you want to sit?
I think to have someone that takes away that element of you having to think more and just
you can have my seat.
Give you, they're spawning here, you look here.
Like do like the.
All you have to do is mechanically use your talent, and it makes the game so much easier for you and all of you guys.
Those things in COD are situational. Yeah, COD is very situational. That's what a lot of people don't understand. That's why like you could see like even a team of 4 pros, you can't just copy like how the best team in the game plays just because like, dude, like because if that was the case, then anybody could be pro. You know what I mean? You just copy like, oh, dude, just rotate at 30. It always works. Or rotate at 25 on this hill, or now have someone early row here. Like it doesn't work like that. That's why I think COD's super situational. You know what I mean? Like it's just like a lot of reps of being in like specific scenarios and then like just doing like the best percentage play. That's all COD is. Like at least I think like the best players just make the best percentage play for the majority of the situationals they get in. It's really like all that's how I think. That's why I think Ant's the best. No bullshit. Because he always does like the highest percentage play to like either 1v2 or plays life, or you know what I'm saying? He won't ever just sit there and die, like let the guy just push him.
So I thought Shotzzy's perspective there was especially interesting, looking at what makes this team good from his perspective, rather than, or at least comparing it to previous teams he's been on, let's say Dallas Empire in the Cold War days, where the team environment wasn't quite so good, or even last year's OpTic Texas, where they didn't quite seem to have all their ducks in a row in terms of getting over the line of the championship. But Shotzzy knows all too well about what it takes to win championships. He did it in 2018, the Splice World Championship that they won in Halo, and then when he joined Call of Duty, won the World Championship with this team, which I believe that many look back on. I mean, Kremp said this was the best team he was ever on, right? I mean, that was quite the statement from Kremp. Maybe he didn't fully believe it at the time. Maybe he was just saying things because, to rile up the OpTic fan base and all this. We know how Kremp is. But Kremp said after they won the World Championship, that's the best team he's been on in terms of culture and chemistry, because the OpTic dynasty, despite how good they were, they would often get through series just by slaying out the other team harder than they could slay the other way around. When they went into the boots on the ground era, where slaying wasn't quite so important and kind of positioning was more important, OpTic Gaming weren't quite as good with that dynasty roster. But it's not just pure ability, but it's also culture as well, and getting the team in the right spot to actually win. And that's what I think Kremp said was so good about this team, is that they all had the same mindset. They were all completely locked in on being the best possible team they could be, and taking everything super serious in practice, trying to improve every single day. And that mindset isn't always there with a lot of pro teams. This team definitely had it. That's one of the key reasons why they won the World Championship that year and looked pretty dominant in doing so, to be honest, especially in the grand finals of that tournament. This team had to blow it up, of course, because things went back to 4 versus 4. But, you know, iLLeY and Shotzzy and Huke, of course, know full well, the guys that are still competing, Clayster, of course, as well, what it takes to win when you've been on a roster like this and you've teamed with Kremp and Clay and all their experiences. So I will say, right, when this team was initially formed with Scump initially on the roster and with Rambo as the coach, it did feel a lot like this was a Dallas Empire Part 2. Okay, Dashy's here now instead, but especially even as it is now, right, with Huke and iLLeY and Shotzzy, it's very much, okay, iLLeY's not there, Ghosty's there, but it did feel like when this OpTic Texas team was formed that there was kind of more of the Dallas Empire culture than there was of the OpTic Chicago culture, especially with Rambo joining as well, the coach of that Dallas Empire team. It felt to me like they were going to super lock in now, right? You've got iLLeY there, you had Shotzzy there, you had Rambo there. I felt like it was going to be with Scump and Dashy on the roster as well, more of a Dallas Empire style team where everything would be taken super seriously and they would have great results as a result. But as it turned out, the Dashy Rambo thing happens, then Scump retires, and all of a sudden it looks like things aren't really working out quite in that way. But now again, they form this new team. Of course, Ghosty's here instead of iLLeY as it stands, and Huke is in the roster, and they do seem to have recaptured some of that Dallas Empire spark. As Shotzzy says, when they play scrims, they're slamming people, and then they want to slam the next kids they play even harder, right? Which is, you know, a mindset that not many teams have, and it might well be critical to their success down the line. And that's the thing, right? Because there's been the discussion that OpTic is very close to Dallas Empire. I wish that Dallas Empire as a brand was still around. It's such a good brand, right? And such a good team name and everything, but unfortunately it had to die for OpTic Texas to become a thing. But look, the storyline is there that there's comparisons being drawn from Shotzzy between them and the Dallas Empire team. And, you know, a few years ago when Dallas Empire existed, they won the World Championship in MWII, and even in Cold War, they came top 3 at the end of that year. They lost to Toronto, right, in that remarkable series to not make the finals, but if they had to make the finals, who knows? I know that Vivid said after that tournament, because he was on that roster towards the end of the year after they dropped Huke, that he reckons they could well, maybe should well, have won that tournament that year, or felt like they were a good match for FaZe at that World Championship. So definitely tweet your thoughts in the comments below. How far do you think this OpTic Texas team can go? Shotzzy knows what it takes to win World Championships. He's done it in 2 different games. Dashy's never quite gotten over the line, and I'm sure that Dashy is not exactly feeling the pressure in a way, but it definitely will be getting to Dashy to some degree. The people have said for years he doesn't have as many chips as his talent deserves, and why exactly is that? And now he's come very close the last 2 events, but still hasn't won another one, so, you know, I'm sure it'll be in Dashy's head a little bit, but they'll be taking things very seriously, I'm sure, as a result. Just to close out here, right, because at the end of the year, things can go very crazy, as happened, I mean, this is just Black Ops 4. What a beautiful game, man. United versus OpTic Gaming, as it was at the time, of course. You know, Clayster, we mentioned him a few minutes ago. And an interesting question here, Modern Warfare Shotzzy or Black Ops 4 Simp? And Clayster says Black Ops 4 Simp is the highest peak anyone has ever gotten to in a game. So yeah, Black Ops 4 Simp was completely ridiculous, but quite the same from Clay, and that is good gas from Clay for sure. And even as Simp says, love me some Clayster gas. I do wonder if there's any small part here of Clayster tweeting this and he thinks, you know what, if Slasher gets dropped from FaZe next year, get me back on FaZe, baby. Like, get me in that team, because that'd be a wild timeline if that was to be the case. But I know that Clay, he just needs to perform well from now to the end of the year, because he hasn't been great at this game, all things considered. He's had his moments. I think he's been a respectable man in Alpha Vegas, and has obviously been very important in why they've become quite an exciting team. But does Clay really want to be on Vegas for another year? Does he want to grind it out on Legion for another year? Or does he want to say, you know what, let's just ride out this year and hope that he gets an offer from another better team potentially, and, you know, maybe that can be in Clayster's future. It'd be nice to see if that was the case. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.